Howdy! Turok Dinosaur Hunter has so many guns to choose from, it can feel overwhelming. When trying to use your ammo most efficiently, it's nice to know what your best options are as you progress through the game's 8 levels and the expansive variety of enemies. We're going to be looking at ammo, utility, availability, or how much of the game you have access to these weapons, and damage to see which of these weapons are best of the best and which ones are safe to call catastrophically horrendous. Let's-a go! Knife. The knife is C tier. So the knife doesn't have much range. It doesn't do any damage really when you're hitting enemies head on. You can kill a few very weak enemies like soldiers and poachers with this thing. It's also good for killing really weak enemies head on, like the beetles and the dragonflies. Anything that would die in a single bullet normally. It's nice to just be able to swipe once, and because it cleaves, it can hit multiple targets. Additionally, the fact that it can knife and reach behind walls, like we saw in the knife only playthrough, that's pretty situational. There's not a ton of places where you can use that, but when you know there's a tough enemy and they're around a wall, but they're close enough for the knife to hit, it's really, really helpful. So you don't have to worry about things like that Perlin in the knife only playthrough on the 3rd level. There's no way I would have been able to take that thing head on because it has so much health. So being able to reach it through the wall was really helpful, but again, there's not a ton of instances like that in the game where you can take advantage of that mechanic. But where the knife really shines is its unique backstab damage multiplier on certain enemies. Going up against like raptors, sergeants, anybody that turns their back to you, especially on something with a ton of health like the Humvees, it is very, very nice to have in those situations. It makes enemies that would normally take a huge amount of damage basically completely insignificant. I mean, you can kill a priest lord, a high priest with one hit instead of dumping like 6 grenades into them or like a whole belt of minigun ammo. It definitely has its unique niche uses, but overall as a weapon, I can't put it any higher just because it's limited on range and damage unless you get those specific specialized cases where you can get backstabs. Tek Bow. Tek Bow is S tier. This weapon is really good overall. You have it from the very beginning of the game. The original arrows that come with it, the non-tech arrows, are really solid against raptors, Dimetrons in particular. They're really, really nice once you realize how the critical hit mechanic works where the arrowhead will gleam. It makes some enemies that would normally be bullet sponges completely insignificant because you can just one-shot them. So this was changed a while ago whenever the Kex 3 to Kex 4 engine migration happened. In the Kex 3 version, it was completely broken. I would say it was, without a doubt, the best weapon in the entire game because when you got the critical hit multiplier on the arrows, you could kill anything in one hit. I mean, you could kill Triceratops in one arrow. It was far and away the best weapon to use throughout the entire game because it was just completely broken. The Kex 4 update balanced it out. It's still really good against specific enemies like the ones I mentioned before, but it's not the massive one-shot, undeniably best weapon that it was in the previous version of the game. What really keeps this weapon still in the S tier is tech arrows. Tech arrows are available all the way back on the 1st level. The quiver will give you 15 of them, and the standard like little cluster of arrows that you pick up will give you 5. There are quite a few of those ammo drops throughout the game. They're not the best. They're not quite as easy to use as some of the other high tier weapons just because they have an arc to them and they're a little bit slow. You have to charge up the shot before you fire it if you want to get any kind of distance. To have the maximum damage output, you basically need to be right in front of an enemy and just spam at their feet. But still, their damage is very, very high. I mean, it's on par with explosive shells. So you absolutely get your money's worth out of this weapon. It is very solid throughout the entire game. Definitely an S tier. Pistol. Pistol is F tier. This weapon is buns. It uses bullets, and bullets are pretty low damage output. This is the first weapon you really pick up in the game in level 1. But the assault rifle is also in level 1, and it completely outclasses the pistol in every single way. There is literally no reason to use a pistol once you pick up the assault rifle. It is by far the best way to use bullets. It can hold quite a bit of ammo, but because it's completely outclassed by the assault rifle, I mean, I think F tier is completely justified for this weapon. Pump shotgun. The shotgun is D tier. It's completely outclassed by the auto shotgun, kind of like how the pistol is outclassed by the assault rifle. It is very slow. fire rate wise compared to the auto shotgun. I think the auto shotgun probably fires at least twice as fast. The ammo type is decent for the standard shells. It puts out decent damage and it spreads out to make it a little bit easier to hit your targets. The only reason I'm not putting this weapon in F tier is because it can still use explosive shells. Explosive shells are one of the best, if not the best, ammo types in the entire game. They are so powerful. They have so much range, they do so much damage, but again, the shotgun is completely outclassed by the auto shotgun, so that one thing isn't going to move it up any higher than D tier. The auto shotgun, this weapon is S tier. It is so powerful. It has all of the pros of the shotgun with none of the downsides. You can spam and fire off 40 shotgun shells is how many you can carry with a backpack. Put out tons of damage. What really elevates this weapon and makes it so broken is the explosive shells. Like I mentioned before, the explosive shells have massive damage. They're basically hit scan bullets, so they're very easy to use. There's no arc or anything like you have to worry about with the tech arrows. They fire pretty quickly out of the auto shotgun as well. They're great for shredding bosses. They're great for killing hard targets like Perlins or cyborg sergeants or even like robots. They have utility throughout the entire game. Level 8 has tons of explosive shells to pick up. You're never really strapped for the most part for shotgun ammo in this. You stop seeing the normal shotgun shells around level 6 or so, but the explosive shells are present throughout the entire game. The auto shotgun is available before the pump shotgun. The auto shotgun is in the first secret area. If you climb the wall and kill the sergeant that's guarding it, the pump shotgun you don't even get till you're around the corner. So it means that you can have the superior version of this weapon before you even get the lower tier pump shotgun. It's with you throughout the entire game. It never loses its viability. Absolutely solid S tier weapon. Assault rifle. This weapon is B tier. Like I mentioned, it is the pistol, but better in every single way. It fires a 3-round burst instead of a single shot. Like I said, you can hold quite a bit of ammo for the bullet ammo type. It's solid against all enemies except for the mechanized enemies. You find tons of bullet ammo throughout the entire game. Overall, it's a very solid weapon, but it doesn't do anything exceptionally well, so I can't justify putting it above B tier. Pulse rifle. This is a tricky one. I can see an argument for this weapon being an S tier. I'm going to put it in A tier. So you first get this weapon after you beat the level 3 boss. So essentially you have it from level 4 onwards. It is so solid in basically every regard. It is really good against red-blooded, green-blooded, and mechanized enemies, so there's no enemy type that you can encounter that it has a hard time dealing with. It has very large projectile. It fires perfectly straight, so it has great range. It only uses 1 energy cell per shot. It's just great. It's a really good Swiss Army knife type weapon in this game. The only reason I'm not putting in S tier is because it doesn't do anything exceptionally well. It's just very well rounded and it's very good throughout most of the game. You start finding a little bit less ammo for it in the later parts of the game as well, but overall it's a very good weapon. Definitely A tier. Minigun. Minigun is S tier. This weapon is insane. It does a ton of damage. It holds 500 rounds. Granted, every time you pull the trigger and it shoots 4 bullets, but it is incredible at killing red-blooded enemies, and most of the enemies in this game are red-blooded. You can pick one of these up in level 2 first in the cave secret area, and if you happen to go to the spirit world portal like I showed in my last video, you can find a box of minigun ammo, and you can basically pick it up in level 2 with 500 rounds ready. It is amazing against dinosaurs, raptors, dimetrodons. It's really good against ancient warriors. It's great against Perlins. It's pretty good against the Long Hunter. It's not as good against the Mandis. That's the green-blooded enemy with the most health in this game, but overall, it's an incredibly solid weapon. If this was the N64 release of this game, this weapon would be down in like D tier. The big difference in why this weapon is so good in the remastered release of the game is because every time you pull the trigger, it fires 2 bullets instead of 1. So essentially it doubles its damage output. Like I said before, the ammo is really nice on this weapon because once you pick up an ammo box for this, it replenishes all 500 rounds. You can get quite a bit of mileage out of it as well. You only need 1 bullet to kill poachers, soldiers, enemies like that, even on hardcore. So when you pick it up, you can churn through quite a bit of a single level. It starts to drop off a little bit in viability toward the tail end of the game because it's not good against the mechanized units as well, and you also start finding less ammo for it. Overall though, it is a very solid weapon, definitely S tier in this game, which is really refreshing because the N64 release, like I said, it is absolutely terrible. Grenade launcher. Grenade launcher is S tier. You pick it up for the first time in level 4. It's amazing against all enemy types. There's tons of ammo for it. You can carry 30 grenades with the backpack, and it's either 15 or 20 without it. I want to say it's 15. There are boxes everywhere. A lot of enemies will actually drop grenades as well if you're not playing on hardcore. So it's very easy to keep topped up on this weapon. It never drops off in viability. It has more splash damage than the tech arrows or the explosive shells. The only drawback is the self damage that you inflict. If you watch my previous video, I'm fighting those really tough leapers, and I took quite a bit of self damage from that. That being said, that drawback is well worth the damage output that you get for it. It's great against bosses. It's great against mechanized units. It's also really great at conserving ammo. There are many times I played this game and I have no ammo left for anything except for the grenade launcher, and it's just that good that you fire one shot and you kill 3 or 4 enemies with it, and you still have the firepower to chew through more powerful enemies. So it really has everything you could really want. Very solid weapon, definitely S tier. Alien weapon. This weapon is D tier. I did get some more experience with it after the last video. I said I needed to see how it stacked up versus the pulse rifle. It is definitely better than it was. The previous version of this weapon I would have called F tier. It still has some very annoying things about it. One of them is that it pushes enemies back. I don't think that's as big of a problem now because the damage radius is much bigger on the explosion. Still, it is very annoying to have enemies constantly moving. It would be much better if these projectiles had the effect of pulling enemies in rather than pushing them away, and that's what the Turok Plus mod for this game actually did. It's much better in that, and the weapon balance has been completely tuned for that, but it's really lacking in damage considering how much of an investment it is to fire it. So instead of the pulse rifle that takes 1 energy cell per shot that you have by level 4, you don't get this weapon until level 6. And even then it's halfway through the level, and it absolutely eats up your ammo. It takes 5 energy cells per shot, and it just doesn't do anywhere near as much damage over time as the pulse rifle will. The one good thing about it, and the reason why it's not an F tier, is you can spam shots with it. You can go through all of your energy cell ammo pretty quickly. So it's decent in the fact that you don't need to spend a lot of time firing it as much as a pulse rifle. That being said, it's still inferior to the pulse rifle in every way, and you only have it for the last 2.5 levels of the game. So D tier is well deserved, even after the buff. Quad rocket launcher. This is another really difficult weapon to rank. I initially thought about putting this all the way up in S tier. I'm going to drop it down to A tier, and I think it's probably in the lower bracket of A tier. The weapon does incredible damage. It fires 4 rockets per shot, and they have an enormous damage output. The good news about this weapon is you don't have to be precise with it at all. If you fire this at the enemy's feet, it'll do a ton of damage to them. Unfortunately, it will also do a ton of damage to you. You can completely shred your health bar if you accidentally fire this thing too close. The projectiles also tend to have a very odd trajectory. Like I had mentioned in the last video, it's pretty similar to like the RPG from Call of Duty. So if you're trying to hit a target directly and 1 or more rockets miss, then you're missing out on a lot of damage. The other drawback to this weapon is the ammo supply. So when you pick this weapon up, if you don't have the backpack, you can only hold 24 rockets, which doesn't sound that bad, but every time you pull the trigger, it fires 4. So that's only 6 volleys of rockets before you're completely out. With a backpack, you go up to 48, so 12 volleys. And to be fair to this weapon, there is quite a bit of ammo replenishment later in the game. There are rockets absolutely everywhere on level 8 and quite a few on level 7 as well. But I'm definitely putting this below the grenade launcher because you have it for so much less time. You get this toward the end of level 6 throughout the end of the game, and it is pretty good for that portion that you have it. But the grenade launcher you have at the start of level 4 basically, and it just has so much more ammo and more utility, and it's less punishing if you accidentally hit yourself with it. So sitting in the lower part of A tier for this weapon. Shockwave Weapon. This is a difficult weapon to rank because it's so gimmicky. So the way that this weapon works is uncharged, it takes up 2 energy cells per shot, and fully charged, it takes up 10. It has a pretty big hitbox on its projectile, and whenever you shoot an enemy that's already dead or an enemy that you kill with it, it will stop in place and have that kind of like freeze dry explosion effect that I talk about. It's really nice because it prevents enemies from respawning, but with one of the recent updates, they actually changed it to where you can just turn off enemy respawns if you don't want to deal with that. So it lost a little bit of its its luster because of it. Still, it does decent damage, has a very big hitbox, and if you fully charge it up, it's pretty good for taking out big groups of enemies like leapers. But I'm gonna put it in C tier because it's not nearly as efficient with its ammo use as the pulse rifle, and you also don't get this until level 5 at the earliest. So yeah, I think C tier is probably fair for this weapon. Fusion cannon, ugh. This really pains me because this is my favorite weapon in the game. I'm gonna put it in A tier. And the biggest reason why is you don't get it until level 7. You only get a handful of shots for this weapon. There's really only 12 that you can actually use. And don't get me wrong, when you fire this thing, it is absolutely amazing. It is a screen clearing blast. It does so much damage. It brings the Triceratops down to basically like 1 or 2 grenades will kill it. And it would normally be like 16 grenades if that thing was full health. It is insanely powerful. It is good against everything that you fight. It's great against bosses. I just can't justify putting it any higher because of the limited amount of time that you get to use it, as much as I love this weapon. Chronoscepter. This might be the most difficult weapon to rank in the entire arsenal. I'll explain why. So, as you saw toward the end of my last video, it absolutely shreds the campaigner. It is incredibly powerful. It'll drop him all the way down to like 1/8 of his health bar, so it completely trivializes the final battle. That being said, you don't get this weapon until the final battle, and on top of that, you have to collect all 8 pieces in hidden areas throughout the entire game just to get 3 shots, and you can miss a shot and basically it's completely worthless. If you're dead on accurate with this thing and you know the campaigner's movements, you can anticipate it pretty well, and you can usually hit him with all 3 of the blasts, but I can't justify honestly putting this higher than D tier just because it's so limited in its use and there's so much time investment to even get this thing in the first place. And finally, this thing does more self-damage than any other weapon in the entire game. I mean, it does about twice as much as the quad rocket launcher does to you. You can hit yourself for almost 90 health with this thing, depending on how close you are to the explosion. So if you're fighting against the campaigner and he pushes up close against you and you fire it at him, you can just pretty much one-shot yourself with it. It does so much self-damage. You would think that's something that you have to put so much investment into getting, just to use it at the end of the game for 3 shots would be better, but honestly, I feel like the fusion cannon pretty much outclasses this thing in every single way. It's really fun to use if you play through the game and you turn on like all weapons, infinite ammo, that kind of stuff, but in a normal playthrough, it just has such limited use that I feel like it belongs in D tier. Okay, so when I'm picking the best weapon, it's going to be out of these 4 weapons up here. The Tek Bow, I think, is a little bit worse than, say, the auto shotgun. The auto shotgun's explosive shells are better than the tech arrows for sure. And honestly, I think there are more explosive shells throughout the game. So I think the auto shotgun's got it beat. And this is a great contender for best weapon in the game. The auto shotgun, like I said, it does great damage. You have it for the entire game. The only drawback is when you don't have a backpack, you can only hold 10 explosive shells. The explosive shells have an interesting trade-off compared to weapons like the grenade launcher or the quad rocket launcher, for example, where they don't have nearly as much splash damage. So if you fire at somebody's feet, you're not doing nearly as much damage as those other weapons because they have such a massive explosion radius. But the trade-off for that is you also don't have to worry about self-damage at all. Like, this thing will not do any self-damage to you. So if an enemy gets right up in your face, you can basically go hog wild with this thing. You can dump an absurd amount of damage into them with the explosive shells, especially if you're stocked up with 20 of them. If you have the backpack, this thing will absolutely deplete a lot of enemies' health pools. It actually does really good damage against bosses as well. All around an amazing weapon. The minigun, it's very, very good at what it does, and what it does is shred weaker enemies, but I don't feel like it's the best weapon in the game because for the most part you get it from level 4 onwards, other than the one that you can pick up early, and it's not good against green-blooded enemies and it's not good against mechanized enemies. Toward the end of the game, like I mentioned before, you also don't get as much ammo for it, so I think that kind of takes this out of the running for best weapon in the game. Grenade launcher, it has a drawback of self-damage and a little bit harder to aim because of the arced projectile, but it holds so much ammo. I mean, it holds 30 grenades. The grenades are insanely powerful. It has so much utility. It's great against every single type of enemy. It's great against bosses. It's great for every part of the game that you pick it up for. There is no drawback to using this thing other than accidentally hurting yourself with it. So based on the criteria, I'm gonna have to give this to the auto shotgun. It's so easy to use. You don't have to worry about self-damage at all. You have it for the entire game. You get it all the way back in level 1 before the regular shotgun even. It makes it obsolete immediately. It pumps out a ridiculous amount of damage. The regular shotgun shells are really good for the first few levels, and the explosive shells carry it throughout the entirety of the rest of the game, and there's ammo everywhere for it. Okay, so going back through this list, trying to get everything in the proper order within each tier, I'm going to move the grenade launcher to the top of S tier. I was debating calling this the best weapon in the game because its per shot value is so impressive. It does so much damage, you have so much ammo, and there's so much use for it in the game. It outweighs the Tek Bow, I would say, even with all of the tech arrow pickups throughout the game. And I'm going to put the Tek Bow above the minigun because you have the Tek Bow for the entire game. And the explosive tech arrows really give the bow some utility that the minigun doesn't have because the bow can be used against any enemy type. The explosives are good against mechanized units, and they're also good against the green-blooded units, which are enemy archetypes that the minigun struggles against. So I think this order right here is what I would settle on. A tier. I'm going to put the fusion cannon above the quad rocket launcher. I think the pulse rifle is still the best because of how much of the game you have it and how much use you get out of it. Like I said, it's basically the Swiss Army knife of all the weapons in this game, and you have it for much more of the game than the fusion cannon. Even though the fusion cannon is unmatched in terms of damage, it just lacks the consistency and availability that this weapon has. The quad rocket launcher is honestly the grenade launcher, but a little bit worse in my opinion. So still a very solid weapon that does a ton of damage, but the drawbacks are more prevalent on it, and it just can't quite compete with a grenade launcher. C tier, I think this is good. The knife is available from the very start of the game, and what it does very well. It is the feast or famine weapon of this game, probably more than any of the others. The backstabs that one-shot enemies is very, very helpful, and while the Shockwave Weapon has a nice effect of preventing revives, you don't get it till level 5, and even then, it's not the best use of your energy cell, like we talked about. D tier. Definitely going to move the Chronoscepter to the beginning here. And then I think I'm going to put the alien weapon in front of the shotgun. So the Chronoscepter is just so powerful that I think it's on the upper end of D tier. It's designed to kill the campaigner, and it does that pretty well. The alien weapon, I'm leaving after that because it has some utility, like I mentioned about. You can churn through quite a bit of ammo and output a decent amount of damage pretty quickly. And the shotgun has nothing over the auto shotgun. And like I said, the only thing keeping this weapon out of F tier is the fact that it uses explosive shells. Okay, here's the best tier list ever made. Be sure to tell me your thoughts in the comments, and feel free to berate me for anything you disagree with in this list. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay saucy.